Hi, my name is Luke Duper. This is my project for CSE. I created Blackjack, which has all the same functionalities as actual Blackjack that you see in casinos. You have hit, you have stand, you can bust. We don't have push. It asks you for your name. It'll give you a betting value. You can bet. We have a deck where you can draw a card and you won't get two of the same cards, so there's no duplicates. We even have a band name list, so if your name is Xiaofeng, you're not allowed to play. Obviously, he's allowed to play. That's just a joke. I'll remove that later. Data structures, I use lists, and I use dictionaries. Dictionaries assign values of the cards, lists to assign those cards themselves. Delving straight into it, let's talk about all the functions. I broke down everything into an abundance of different smaller functions to take this one big task and break it down into smaller tasks, so it's not only easier to code, not only easier to start, but it's a lot easier to target smaller functions and the entire problem at hand, which is Blackjack. In total, this makes it also more modularized. It's more organized, much easier to look at. If I want to collaborate with someone, they can just look at this, be like, oh, this is create deck. I know exactly how this works, so they can understand how the deck is created, how to draw a card, how to print a hand, how to get a player name, so on and so forth. Much more modularized. If I want to go ahead and target if I want to update this or I want to take something out, it's much easier to go into an individual function and adjust that than having to go into one giant function, having to search for where we take the player's name or where we create the deck. Much easier to look at, much more modularized, much more organized, much easier to look at. That's why I broke it down. Getting into each different individual function, we have import random. I'll explain what that does later. There's only one functionality of that in here. That's the only library I use. We have get player name. We have Xiaofeng. What is your name? It takes in the player's name. If they're on the band player's name, band names list. Okay, if your name is Xiaofeng, you're not allowed to play. Otherwise, if your name is Luke, my name, you get a special bonus of $1 million. You have a player name, you have $1 million, or you have 500 if you're not Luke. That's it. So it just returns the player's name and how much money they have to bet with, which is useful for later on. We have create decks, which takes two different lists, one for suits, one for values, and we create the deck, iterating through how many different values there are in suits, and then we assign basically. So we have ace, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth to spades. We have all that to hearts, diamonds, clubs, creating an entire deck. We return that deck. We have draw a card, which will essentially take one of the cards out from the deck that we will also use later for when you want to hit. It'll return that card and it'll remove that card. No duplicates. We have print hand, which will print the player's name. Just a simple function so I don't have to repeat this print statement. We have calculate hand value, which will assign each different string or each different character. Especially which is useful for Jack, Queen, King, and Ace, which are just letters, not actual numbers, two integer values that we can use to compare later on and give to the computer to kind of go through these conditionals. Because obviously the computer doesn't know that Jack, Queen, King, and Ace, or JQ, K, and A, for instance, are not going to automatically be 10 or 11. Like, the computer will not know that. We have a function right here, or functionality, that talks about, or that kind of checks whether or not the overall card value of the player's hand is over 21, or the dealer's hand. If it is, and they have an ace, it downgrades the value of the ace from 11 to 1. Just how an ace works. Another function, we have player turn. Player turn will ask them how much they want to bet. If it's all in, then we have these fun answers. This is where the library module random comes in, because it just gives one of these responses depending on, if they want to go risky every time. Just makes it a little more fun and personal. We have these other, if they don't want to go all in, we check whether or not they have a valid bet, not exceeding how much money they have, but also not something that's less than or equal to 0. They have to bet something to play. It asks them how much they want to bet. Then we go ahead, we actually run the game. It'll print the player's name, or player's hand. It'll print the dealer's hand. And then it'll go ahead and determine who wins right here by calculating the hand value. That's another function that we call. It'll determine the winner, which is another function we'll call later. And if they win, if the player is the one who wins, we double their bet. If not, then we take away that bet. We have the dealer's turn, which is just a simple algorithm that will either hit or stand based on whether or not it's less than 17. It's less than 17. We take one of the cards from the deck, and we go ahead and add that to the dealer's hand. We determine the winner, which is a giant if-else statement, which will take the values, the numerical values of the player's hand of the dealer's hand. It'll compare that to 21 at first, just to check if they bust or if they're still in the game. If not, if they're still in the game, we compare the values to each other. If it's greater than the dealer's value, they win. Otherwise, they lose. If all that doesn't work, then it's a tie. Then we display the scoreboard, which just tells the player how much money they have. Then we have an overarching function, blackjack, which is just the main function, and it will ask them whether or not they want to play the game. Then it goes through, it creates a deck, gets the dealer a turn, gives a player a turn, hit or stand, and then we display the scoreboard, and we display whether or not they've won. We double their bet if they win, we don't if they lose. Game over if they have no more money or if they don't want to continue playing. We call that function. So if I go over here, why don't I go ahead and run this function? So we have, what is your name? My name is Luke. I get $1 million. Let's play blackjack. I'm just gonna say all in. I get an 8 today. I'm at 16. Let's just say I want to hit. Let's see. I lost. I busted, and I lose. And that is the game.